We're back for our final topic this week with our line panelists. New Mexico PBS, KUNM, and New Mexico in Depth are partnering this year in our coverage of the legislative session. Each week we've focused on different issues like lobbyist spending, citizen lobbying, and earlier this hour, you saw transparency in state government. We also covered a proposal to cap interest rates on short-term loans like title loans, and those bills stalled in committees in both sides of the legislature. And Eric, the proposal to cap interest rates has support from the faith community and, as you know, social services back when you were doing that kind of thing too. But loan companies testified in committee that the cap would drive them out of business and no one would have ways to get money anymore. Do you buy that fundamental argument just starting right there?
This issue is scandalous because it's been an issue that we've tried to tackle year after year. The average person would say that a 36% cap, think about your highest credit card, and their argument is essentially, yeah, these people are super poor and therefore we should be able to lend to them. That 36% isn't enough for us, that we ought to be able to lend to them at 100, 200, sometimes 500% interest rates. The fact that you cannot get speaks to the sort of how scandalous this is and the influence that these special interests have had. I can tell you, I tried to push this issue, and the coalition, the bipartisan coalition with some of the most powerful lobbyists in Santa Fe, who shall remain nameless, in both parties, who can kill this kind of legislation. Right. It's scandalous, and I'm surprised that people aren't held more accountable for this.
Let me stay with you on that very fact. Were you surprised at the amount of Democrats in committee who voted to table the measure? And just give us a quick take on what tabling actually means and how it can actually come back later and all that kind of stuff versus being fully defeated in
well, it's just as bad. Tabling simply means that and discussion ends. It's taken off the agenda, and in theory it can be brought back, but it's incredibly rare that happens. I know there was one senator who said they voted to table so they could bring it back, which is really, for anybody who knows the process, is really just a ruse. I mean, the bottom line is that until we hold both parties accountable for doing something on this, this is really, really just usury at its worst. It's not just the faith community, it's anybody who thinks that you shouldn't be charging poor people double-digit interest for loans when they're at their weakest point. I mean, as New Mexicans, if we can't agree on that in both parties, what can we agree on?
It seems, Bridget Russell, but we haven't agreed, have we? It's really interesting. And this goes back, I'm reminded that Lieutenant Governor Diane Dendish ran almost exclusively on this issue, and the public didn't quite bite on it. There's something missing here, it seems to me.
There is. I mean, there is really this. I drive past those payday loan places, and I just get a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach that we, as a society, we shouldn't be living in a world like this. And yet, then there's the argument, if you cap the interest, and if these companies say, I can't lend to these people, will they seek loans from illegal sources? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how disingenuous the industry rhetoric is that they couldn't afford to stay in business if they had their interest rate capped at 36%. But there's something deeply troubling that we permit 100, 200, 300% interest rates on the poorest of the poor.
Isn't that interesting? Tom, I got to ask you this. I think you were here at the table the last time I asked this, but in the Journal, there was an op-ed a bit ago about this idea that, look, if 36% is the number, someone needs to go out there and prove it. Meaning, someone needs to start a business of lending money at 36%, advertise like everybody else, and say, I'm going to beat this guy down the street who's charging you 150% interest, and prove a point. Does that sound reasonable to you? I mean, why not get in the business if 36% would be more appealing than 500%? Is that not just a giant opportunity for somebody here?
Well, you know, reasonableness with regards to these percentages, I think, is an oxymoron. You know, when we look at, I mean, let's, to answer your question, let's have the private sector decide. But you know, I think that first, before we can actually have that opportunity, we need to have those caps in, because 340% interest is not reasonable. 36% to a normal, you know, person that understands how credit operates is definitely not reasonable. And the sad thing is as mentioned by our panelists here, the most vulnerable are being taken advantage of and they're being victimized. And the fact that lobbying is not a bad thing, but there are some organizations that are more effective at it than others. Some use human interest stories, others use cash. And all it is everybody is using whatever they can to help promote their point. And sadly, those who like the 340% interest rates have been more effective at getting people to vote their way than those who are focusing more on the human interest and the poverty and the extortion of it all.
Interesting. So, speaking of the money, Tom just mentioned, Sophie, it's been reported here.
I was
reading right
shocked
here.
at how little it is.
Now, thank you for saying that.
I thought, you know what,
$7,000.
I thought that in this building alone,
Brilliant.
we could raise
Yeah.
so much more than that and go in and spend that money. It is shocking how little it takes apparently to sway legislators' votes. A combination, I assume, of the donations, the access that the donation, that's really it, right? The access that the donation provides. And then the tremendous sympathy for business owners, companies that are reaping a tremendous profit by essentially pushing our poorest people off the cliff to prevent them from going off the cliff. It is insane.
Right.
It
Does
is
that make
insane.
sense to you? I mean, we're talking a grand total of like $250 to some legislators. You can't swing a vote, I wouldn't think, for $250, but apparently
No,
you
but
can.
I mean the part that's not being discussed
Okay.
is that some of the most powerful lobbyists, former speakers, carry the water. This is a very lucrative contract. I think what should have been part of the story is how many of these lobbyists are being paid by interests there. I mean, that wasn't part of the story. The direct contribution, I don't think that's really going to sway a lot of people. There are people who got money who voted against it,
Sure,
like
that's
Senator
right.
Rue, and people who didn't get money who voted for it. So I think the bigger issue is there's some power, as I learned the hard way as a senator who sponsored legislation to do this very thing. You would be shocked at the folks who can shut this down very quickly. And it speaks to the bigger problem we have, which is very powerful former legislators who can really squash legislation based on their personal relationships. And I think this is scandalous. If you've had a family member, as I have, or constituents who've lost their cars, who've been basically put into poverty, they were on the line already, but they're really squarely now in poverty.
Yeah.
And now the rest of us are having to figure out, oh my God, food stamps, Medicaid, and so on. When really these folks who 36% isn't enough for them. It's scandalous.
What do you, just with the 30 seconds we got left here, what do you think of the idea I proposed to Tom that there's an opportunity for somebody to get out there and prove it from the business side of things? A line down the street at 36%, wouldn't that be influential in the legislature? To say, look, this is possible. This is doable.
I think there are people who are trying to do it and trying to, but as long as you can really, again, it's always a race to the bottom. As long as somebody can make a little more money at it, sadly, these are not the most, I hate to say it, but these are not the most reputable businesses, you know.
And people don't go into business to prove points.
Exactly,
They go to make as much
And
money
I think
as they can.
there's not a
It's
market
true.
solution for this. Otherwise, we have kids
Beyond
working.
that,
And,
when
you
we
know,
see regulation in industries like this,
Yeah.
the businesses adapt. They don't leave the state, they change their products.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to a certain extent, it's a whack-a-mole game where we're trying to adjust, continually adjust to how they adjust.
Right.
But I firmly believe at 36%, we will still have those loans. They'll still be out there.
I
Good
agree.
point. We need to leave it there, unfortunately. But thanks you all for joining us tonight. Head to our website for more of this week's topics and stuff on the clock. I'm Gene Grant. Thanks for joining us tonight. You can find links to more information about the topics mentioned in our show when you visit us online at newmexicoinfocus.org. And as always, we very much appreciate your time and your effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus.